Scotgasm continues, and in today's episode of the vlog I'm talking about how the BBC have muscled in on this with Rise of the Clans. That's coming right up. Hello folks, how are you doing? Welcome to today's episode of the vlog. I am talking about a brand new season, a brand new series on the BBC called Rise of the Clans.
It's clan against clan.
Scotgasm. What is Scotgasm? It's something that one of my followers has coined, if you like, because this year has seen an incredible amount of films and series all about Scotland. Outlander was a big thing. I think Outlander kickstarted the whole genre, re-kickstarted the whole genre, if you like. Because ever since Braveheart, we've never really had any kind of Scottish history involved in our TV sets and movies and stuff. You can't really call Braveheart Scottish history, but nonetheless, we've never really had anything like that for a bunch of years. And now, after Outlander, there's just been this rollout of a number of big productions. We recently had Outlaw King on Netflix, the Mary Queen of Scots film as well. Massive productions here. And it's a part of history that is really interesting. Outlander covered the Scottish clan systems, especially in the first couple of seasons. And that is something that a lot of us in Scotland were never ever taught at school. It's something we don't know about. And yet the odd thing is, people from around the world, especially in the United States and Canada, know all about the Scottish clans because it's part of their history and heritage. People emigrated from Scotland after the Battle of Culloden, for example, over to the New World and set up home. And that's how so many millions of people in America have Scottish ancestry and know all about the Scottish clans. So when you guys ask us, what is your clan? We simply don't know because it's not something that really figures for us. But it is a trend and it's something that people are interested in, and that is why the BBC have launched a brand new season all about Scottish clans. Let me tell you more about that in just a little second, but first of all I just want to say welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining in with my vlogs. My name is Shaun and I'm a vlogger from Edinburgh in Scotland. I talk all about Scottish culture on my channel. I do Scottish reactions, I take you on Scottish adventures and much more. It's great to have you here. If you're new, do not forget to hit the big red subscribe button down in that bottom corner so that you can keep in touch with all of my content from now on. I'll wait for you. Have you done it? Have you subscribed? Great to have you on board. So the BBC have launched this series called Rise of the Clans. With all of this interest on Scotland, there are numbers of people from around the world come to Scotland now. We've had record tourism and also people's attention around the world, whether that is online videos like YouTube and streaming services like Netflix and Stars and all that. There is so much money going into this type of production in Scotland. But what about people in the UK? That is an interesting thing because anything produced by the BBC is primarily for a Scottish or British audience, and those from outside the UK won't get to see any of it for the first little while. The BBC generally sells these types of shows onwards to other countries afterwards, and I dare say Rise of the Clans will be no exception. They will sell that to Netflix or whoever will be the highest bidder, I guess. So you guys will get to see this program eventually. But the BBC have wanted to muscle in on this trend. Absolutely, you can totally see where they're coming from this. It's also no coincidence that this season has started very soon after all the other things have been launched. Outlander season 4 has just come out. We've had Outlaw King that I've talked all about on my channel. Mary Queen of Scots is out this month. It has been 3 or 4 months of heavy activity of releases, and the BBC has launched this right in the middle to coincide with the whole Scotgasm thing that we've got going on. Also, the first episode that I'm going to talk to you about today that I've already seen is all about Robert the Bruce. Outlaw King, which was out like a month ago, is all about Robert the Bruce, and essentially the first episode of Rise of the Clans tells a story that happened in Outlaw King from start to finish, but it was done in a different format. Let me explain. This is a documentary series that is also a bit of acting involved. So basically they've brought in Neal Oliver to be the presenter. A lot of people around the world might not know who Neal Oliver is, but he's basically a self-styled people's historian, if you like. He got widely known for his part in the documentary series which ran for I don't know how many seasons, called Coast. He was a Scottish guy on Coast. Neal Oliver was also appointed to be the president of the National Trust for Scotland, the organisation that kind of deals with all historical aspects and culture in Scotland. He's a big character, but he's also controversial, especially to those who are supporters of independence for Scotland, right? Neal Oliver was ardently against independence for Scotland. It's a good thing in Scotland we've got lots of opinions on these types of issues, right? I think in the manner in which he spoke about people who supported Scottish independence was borderline insulting in some cases, and that got a lot of people's backs up. Neal Oliver, he is Scottish, he's a right to his opinion, and he's also a big personality in terms of history. He was absolutely the right appointment for this documentary series, but in terms of people who support Scottish independence, he might also be the reason that a lot of those people don't even watch. There was a lot of people boycotting the National Trust for Scotland and even cancelled memberships because of his appointment, and that is how divisive the whole thing became. Anyway, Neal Oliver, he is a very good presenter of history and historic programmes on the BBC. The Coast, I think he did a great job in Coast, and I'm willing to watch what he's got got to say about the clan system in Scotland. And to be honest with you, he knows more than most people about these types of things as well. As I say, the first episode is all about Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce's story, almost exactly how it played out in Outlaw King, with a couple of the key historic facts in the right place. As this is a historic documentary, they're not going to get anything wrong on this, and they brought in a number of experts throughout. But what I liked about this right from the beginning is it is a new style of documentary that I haven't seen on the BBC for quite a while. So it was factual, Neal Oliver presenting over the facts, but they also had a lot of actors to play out scenes. So they had somebody playing Robert the Bruce, they had people who were playing his brothers, they had someone who was playing John Comyn. They had all those actors in place. And what I thought was interesting about the documentary was Neal Oliver was kind of walking among them and hiding behind corners as if he was spying into time, back through time, and watching events unfold. I thought that was a really interesting way to present this documentary. Kind of unique, and actually I really enjoyed that. But I must admit, going back to the independence thing, I wasn't so keen on Neal Oliver's first line in the whole show. When he was introducing the thing and then taking us back in time, he said, Scotland was a law unto itself. And I think, guys, to be honest with you, that is a quite inflammatory statement to open the whole thing in. Because in those days, Scotland was fighting for independence. They had the clan systems. They were not perfect. The clans were brutal. Absolutely. Let me read you the thesaurus definition of a law unto yourself. If you say that somebody is a law unto themselves, what you mean is the person or people behave in an independent manner, ignoring laws, rules, or conventional ways of doing things. So I really think that statement to open this whole thing is a little bit inflammatory, in the sense that Scotland was independent eventually because of those wars, and it was like we were unruly people. I just find that really odd in the beginning. I have to get that out there, and I have to state my opinion on that. I don't know what you guys think. I would like to know. A couple of other things Neal Oliver said. You can clearly see the connection the BBC are trying to make with other shows that are kind of time period, and even fiction as well. Like, for example, Neal Oliver said, winter is coming. Clear Game of Thrones throwback there. They know this is a trend. They know to get on this. They're not stupid, the BBC. They've got a lot of money and a lot of good producers behind these types of shows. One of the first key scenes that Neal Oliver narrates over is the John Comyn incident. And it's quite fascinating how that played out in this factual documentary in such a similar way to how it played out in Outlaw King, with a couple of facts that were different, obviously. They added in the BBC part about John Comyn insulting Robert the Bruce's father. Whether that happened or not, I'm not sure anybody absolutely knows. Maybe they introduced a little bit of fiction into that. But anyway, another nice point that I liked about this documentary series is that they are introducing a number of absolute experts in the field. For example, Steve Boardman, a professor at the University of Edinburgh. People like that, high caliber, high quality people who know their stuff. And that is a great addition by this show. It really gives this series credibility in terms of historical accuracy, which is what these stories really need, I think, especially if you're doing it in a documentary sense. I'm just not 100% sure about how the Scottish audience are going to take it, because let's be frank here, the Scottish perception and Scottish reaction to Outlander, for example, has been lukewarm at absolute best. Hostile is more accurate. So, like, how this is going to do to the Scottish audience, I don't know, but they will sell it onwards, I am convinced of that. But I think what the show does do really well is it is a great starting point for people to get the history of these clans down, because a lot of people in Scotland, as I say, do not know this stuff. It is entertaining in the fact that they have actors playing out the characters. They have battle scenes as well with blood. Really well done, the BBC. And also, this is so important, and this is what Outlander did really well, and this is something that is crucial to these types of things. They used accurate language. For example, throughout, the actors were speaking Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, especially when they were talking about scenes with Highlanders and people who lived on the west coast of Scotland, who in those days would have spoke Gaelic. They also introduced some Gaelic Scottish folk songs as well that were actually sung in the background. I thought that was just a really amazing, awesome touch. They have thought about this really well, the BBC. The BBC, guys, we give a lot of criticism to the BBC, especially in Scotland. A lot of criticism, a lot of it's fair. However, I still maintain the BBC does the best documentaries in the world. Nature documentaries on the BBC are like unrivaled anywhere in the world. They are absolutely splendidly good. Splendidly? They are absolutely amazingly good. So it's no surprise then that they should pay such close attention to detail for the likes of this, The Rise of the Clans. Despite some of the complaints a lot of people will have with Neal Oliver.
It's going to be no happy ending.
You know, I like him as a presenter. I wasn't too keen on the comment he made in the start, and also another comment he later made. One of the big legends about Robert the Bruce is the spider in the cave story. It is a legend. It's a story. Nobody actually knows if it's real or not. But it's a legend that we hold onto in Scotland and we love. It's on our banknotes, right? Neal Oliver said something to pour scorn on that legend. Not a spider in sight. were his words. Now, listen, we don't know if that spider story is true. Neal Oliver was probably just trying to enforce his historical viewpoint on the thing, but is it necessary? It's a story and a legend that people in Scotland hold dear, and for him to say what he did in that way, I think was probably a little bit derogatory. But listen, Neal Oliver, I still think he's a good presenter, and it's interesting to have him on there, and I would like to know your thoughts on that, in particular what I've said about some of the things he said seem like a little bit of a dig. Down below in the comments, please. I watched the first episode. There are actually 3 parts to this, and they will be played out over the coming weeks, but I watched the first episode about Robert the Bruce, and each week it follows a new story, a new clan. But the first part was Robert the Bruce's story, killing John Comyn in a church, and then being crowned the King of Scotland, and then going on the run into the Scottish Highlands, and then ending at the Battle of Bannockburn, which, by the way, is a part that Outlaw King left out, which apparently will come in a second part if Outlaw King was received well enough. Anyway, listen, they covered that whole story, and they included some key characters to that story in the clans. For example, Angus Og, the Lord of the Isles, who we saw in Outlaw King as well. Really good to have his character involved, because Robert the Bruce went over to Islay, as we saw in the documentary and in Outlaw King. He had battles with clans on the west coast like the McDougals, for example. He had alliances with the Campbells, so it was great to see the part that Angus Og and Neil Campbell, for example, the 2 clan leaders, played in his story and leading up to the Battle of Bannockburn. However, one key character was oddly missing. I talked a lot about in my Outlaw King review about Black Douglas, and true history was actually key to that whole story. Like, Black Douglas, I think, brought it all together. So they showed the Battle of Bannockburn, they showed the characters involved, except the Black Douglas. The Black Douglas, for goodness sake, he chased Edward II out of Stirling. He chased him all the way to Dunbar Castle, and Edward II narrowly escaped. So I thought it was very odd that they left him out, while leaving in, for example, Angus Og, the Lord of the Isles. But I do like they included the Battle of Bannockburn with some key facts that not everybody knew. I certainly didn't know either. So I've learned from this show. I've enjoyed the first episode a lot, and I will be looking forward to the second and third episodes. I've actually got a friend who appears in the second episode. You guys might know him on social media as Scott Street Style, Gordon. He was also on Outlaw King, by the way. He is in the second episode. I enjoyed it. I think it's great. Neal Oliver, a lot of people have opinions about him. Good presenter though, and he knows his history. That is key. You know, I rate the show. I liked it. I like what the BBC have done. I think it's important they've done this to tell these stories to a Scottish audience. Even if people in Scotland might ultimately end up ignoring it, I'm convinced the BBC will sell this series on so that you guys can watch it around the world. Keep your eyes open for the Rise of the Clans from the BBC. And guys, I'd love to know your opinions on this. Have you seen Rise of the Clans? Are you excited about seeing it one day eventually? Let me know in the comments down below. Guys, do not forget, I'm also on Instagram, and I'd be delighted to continue this discussion with you guys. My username is up there. It's great to get your opinions on these types of things. But thank you very much for watching, guys. The Scotgasm continues, apparently. And there are more Scottish related things coming next year, which I will be talking about. This is your Scottish reaction to Rise of the Clans. Thank you so much for watching. And until the next adventure, I hope you have a great night, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are in the world. Take care.